There is a moment in baseball history that stops time. Not a home run. Not a perfect game. Not a walk-off in the World Series. Sometimes, the moment that stops time is simply a lineup card. A rotation. A piece of paper with 3 names written on it that makes every baseball mind in the world pause, read it again, and quietly whisper to themselves. This isn't supposed to be possible. That is exactly what happened when the 2025 Los Angeles Dodgers pitching rotation was confirmed. Shohei Ohtani. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Tyler Glasnow. 3 words. 3 names. 3 pitchers who, on any other team in baseball, would be the undisputed, unchallenged, career-defining ace. 3 men who could each carry a franchise on their shoulders alone, and the Dodgers have put all 3 of them in the same rotation, on the same staff, in the same dugout, at the same time. When the news settled across the baseball world, the reactions weren't analysis. They weren't breakdowns of ERA projections or WAR calculations. They were pure, unfiltered disbelief. Greg Maddux, a man who won 4 consecutive Cy Young Awards and spent his entire career studying the art of pitching, looked at this rotation and said what every legend in the sport was thinking. Honestly, this starting rotation is insane. Not great. Not historic. Insane. And Dave Roberts, the man who gets to write that rotation card every 5th day, didn't say a word. He just grinned. The quiet, knowing grin of a manager who understands exactly what he has been handed, and exactly what it means for the rest of the league. So today, we go inside that grin. We break down exactly why this rotation has left legends speechless. We look at what Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Glasnow each bring individually, and then we look at what they create together. Because separately, each of them is extraordinary. But together, they have built something that baseball has genuinely never seen before. Let's start with the name everyone sees first. The name that changed the sport. Shohei Ohtani returning to the mound in 2025 is not simply the return of a pitcher. It is the return of the only player in baseball history who makes opponents nervous twice, once when he walks to the mound, and once when he walks to the plate. But strip away the two-way conversation for a moment. Focus only on Ohtani the pitcher. Focus only on what he brings to this rotation purely as a starting pitcher, and even then, the numbers are almost unfair. Before Tommy John surgery interrupted his 2023 season, Ohtani was operating at a level that most pitchers never reach at the peak of their careers. A mid to high 90s fastball with elite spin rate. A splitter that advanced hitters described as borderline unhittable. A slider that generated swing and miss rates that ranked among the top in the entire league. And now, coming back from surgery with a fully healthy arm, with the resources of the Dodgers pitching infrastructure behind him, with a coaching staff specifically designed to optimize every mechanical detail of his delivery, Ohtani is not returning as the pitcher he was. He is returning as something more. The 188 km fastball he threw past Mike Trout in spring training was the announcement. The message was clear: the surgery did not slow him down. It gave him a clean slate to build something even better on top of. In this rotation, Ohtani is not just the star. He is the standard. He is the measuring stick every other pitcher in baseball has to look up at and ask themselves, how do I compete with that? If Ohtani is the measuring stick, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the proof that the standard can be matched. When the Dodgers signed Yamamoto to the largest contract ever given to a pitcher in baseball history, $325 million over 12 years, there were questions. Not about his talent. Nobody who had watched him dominate the NPB for years questioned his talent. The questions were about translation. About whether the dominance he showed in Japan would survive the crossing to the biggest stage in the world. He answered those questions in his first MLB season with a performance that silenced every skeptic who had ever doubted the quality of Japanese baseball. Yamamoto is not a power pitcher in the traditional sense. He does not overpower hitters with raw velocity the way Ohtani does. What he does is something more subtle, and in many ways, more dangerous. He is a master of sequencing. A chess player on the mound who thinks 3 pitches ahead, setting up hitters with off-speed offerings before burying them with a fastball they have already forgotten to look for. His gyroball is one of the most unique pitches in professional baseball. His four-seam fastball plays up because of everything he surrounds it with. His command, the ability to locate every pitch to precise locations within the strike zone on demand, is the kind that pitching coaches spend entire careers trying to teach and almost never fully succeed. When Yamamoto takes the mound, opposing managers don't just prepare a lineup. They prepare a strategy. They study his sequencing patterns. They search for tendencies. They look for any edge they can find in hours of film review. And then the game starts, and Yamamoto makes all of that preparation feel completely inadequate. In this rotation, Yamamoto is the quiet assassin. While Ohtani commands the spotlight and the velocity readings, Yamamoto methodically dismantles lineups with an efficiency and intelligence that veteran hitters find uniquely frustrating. Because you can feel him outsmarting you at every count, and there is almost nothing you can do about it. And then there is Tyler Glasnow. In any other rotation in baseball, Tyler Glasnow is the conversation. He is the headline. He is the name that opposing lineups build their entire game plan around the night before they face him. On the 2025 Dodgers, he is the third starter. Let that sink in for a moment. A pitcher who stands 6 feet 8 inches tall, who throws a four-seam fastball that sits comfortably at 97 to 99 miles per hour, who has a curveball that drops off a table and generates some of the highest whiff rates of any breaking ball in the sport, and he is the third name in this rotation. Glasnow is the kind of pitcher that hitters dread in a very specific, physical way. His height and extension create a release point that makes his fastball appear to arrive faster than the radar gun suggests. By the time the ball leaves his hand, it is already 2/3 of the way to the plate, and hitters who are not locked in from the very first pitch find themselves hopelessly late on everything he throws. When healthy, and 2024 showed the baseball world what a fully healthy, fully confident Tyler Glasnow looks like, he is a legitimate Cy Young contender. Not a fringe candidate. A genuine, front-of-the-ballot contender. On any team without Ohtani and Yamamoto, Glasnow walks into spring training as the undisputed ace. The man the organization builds around. The name on the marquee. On the 2025 Dodgers, he slots in at number 3, and somehow, impossibly, that makes the rotation even more terrifying. Because it means there is no relief in this lineup. There is no soft spot. There is no game where the opposing manager looks at the pitching matchup and feels good about his team's chances. Every single start, for 3 out of every 5 days, the other team is facing a potential Cy Young winner. Dave Roberts has managed in this league long enough to understand what is normal and what is not. He has seen great rotations. He has managed through injuries, through playoff runs, through the kind of pressure that breaks lesser coaches. He has stood in dugouts across the sport and evaluated talent with the practiced eye of a man who has spent decades in professional baseball. And when this rotation came together, when the contracts were signed and the roster was finalized and he sat down and looked at the names on his depth chart, Roberts did something that veteran managers almost never do in front of cameras. He grinned. Not a polite smile for the press. Not the careful, measured expression of a manager trying not to give away too much information to opponents. A genuine, uncontrollable, boyish grin. The kind of expression that escapes even the most disciplined faces when something extraordinary lands in front of them. Because Roberts understands something that the raw statistics don't fully capture. He understands what this rotation does to opposing offenses not just on the days when Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Glasnow pitch, but on every single day of the season. The mental preparation required to face this rotation is exhausting in a way that compounds over a 162-game schedule. Hitters who spend Tuesday night studying Yamamoto's sequencing have to completely reset Wednesday to prepare for Glasnow's power approach, then reset again Thursday for Ohtani's splitter and velocity. There is no rhythm to find. There is no groove to settle into against a rotation this diverse and this elite. Roberts doesn't need to say anything in press conferences. The grin says everything. It says, I know exactly what I have. And so does everyone else. When Greg Maddux calls something insane, you listen. This is a man who approached pitching as a science. Who believed deeply that guile, location, and preparation could outperform raw power every single time. Who built a Hall of Fame career on the idea that pitching intelligence was the ultimate weapon. And when Maddux looks at this rotation and reaches for the word insane, not impressive, not historically significant, not exceptionally talented, it tells you something important. It tells you that even the greatest minds in the history of the position are struggling to find the appropriate framework to evaluate what they are seeing. Pedro Martinez, a man who once had one of the most dominant single seasons any pitcher has ever produced, spoke about this rotation with a reverence that bordered on discomfort. He talked about what it feels like, as a hitter, to know that the team you're facing has 3 pitchers who can each individually take a game away from you, and that there is no mathematical way to avoid all 3 of them across a series. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Johan Santana. The greatest rotations in baseball history have always had a clear number 1, a clear drop-off, a clear place where opposing offenses could find some relief. This rotation has no drop-off. That is what the legends are reacting to. That is what makes this different from everything that came before it. But beyond the wins and losses, beyond the ERA charts and the strikeout totals, this rotation means something larger for the sport itself. It is proof that baseball has entered a new era, one where the gap between the best teams and the rest of the league is being defined not by hitting, not by defense, not by management decisions, but by the ability to acquire and develop elite pitching at a scale nobody thought was sustainable. The Dodgers have not just built a great rotation. They have built an argument. An argument that when you combine financial resources with genuine organizational intelligence, with a player development system that maximizes every pitcher who passes through it, and with the willingness to make historically bold decisions, you can create something the sport has never seen. Ohtani chose this. Yamamoto chose this. Glasnow chose this. 3 pitchers who could have been the face of any franchise in baseball looked at the Dodgers and decided this was where they wanted to build their legacy. That choice, and what it says about the organization Roberts leads, matters as much as any individual performance. So the next time a camera finds Dave Roberts in that dugout and catches that quiet, knowing grin spreading across his face, remember what it means. It means he is thinking about Ohtani on Tuesday, Yamamoto on Wednesday, and Glasnow on Thursday. It means he is thinking about opposing managers sitting in their offices the night before a series, studying film, running scenarios, looking for any crack in the armor, and finding none. It means he is thinking about Greg Maddux, one of the greatest pitchers who ever lived, watching this rotation and reaching for the only word that fits. Insane. The legends are baffled. The opposing lineups are exhausted before the first pitch is thrown. And somewhere in the Dodgers dugout, Roberts is grinning because he already knows how this story ends. Not with a question mark. With a championship banner.